A train operating company is a business operating passenger trains on the railway system of Great Britain under the collective National Rail brand. TOCs have existed since the privatisation of the network under the Railways Act 1993. There are two types of TOC. Most hold franchises led by the Department for Transport through a tendering system to operate services on certain routes for a specified duration, while a small number of open access operators hold licenses to provide supplementary services on chosen routes. These operators can run services for the duration of the license validity. The franchised operators have changed considerably since privatization. Previous franchises have been divided, merged, re-let to new operators, or renamed. Some operators have been taken over by a government-owned operator of last resort, due either to failing expectations or to events on the rail system as a whole. The term is also sometimes used to describe companies operating passenger or freight rail services over tracks owned by another company or a national network owner. Franchises were initially led by the Office of Passenger Rail Franchising. This was in turn replaced by the Strategic Rail Authority, which has since been abolished. For England, franchising is now the responsibility of the Department for Transport in the majority of cases. In Scotland, it is the responsibility of Transport Scotland. In Wales, since 2017, the responsibility for the specification and procurement of the Wales and Borders franchise belongs to Transport for Wales. In two parts of England, local government agencies are responsible. In Merseyside, the Merseyside Passenger Transport Executive lets the Merseyrail franchise, while in London, Transport for London oversees the New London Overground and Crossrail concessions. The Rail Delivery Group provides a commonality for the TOCs and provides some centralized coordination. Its activities include the provision of a national timetable and online journey planner facility, and the operation of the various railcard discount schemes. Eurostar is also a member of the RDG, though it is not itself a TOC. For historical and geographical reasons, the railway network of the United Kingdom is split into two independent systems, one in Great Britain, and one in Northern Ireland, which is closely linked to the railway system of the Republic of Ireland. In Great Britain, passenger train services are operated by a number of companies, referred to as train operating companies or TOCs, normally on the basis of regional franchises awarded by the Department for Transport Rail Group. Until 2005, this role was performed by the Strategic Rail Authority. The infrastructure of the railways in England, Scotland, and Wales, including tracks and signalling, is owned and operated not by the train companies but by Network Rail, which took over responsibility from Railtrack in 2002. Most passenger trains are owned by a small number of rolling stock companies and are leased to the individual TOCs. However, a handful of TOCs own and maintain some of their own rolling stock. Train operating companies also operate most of the network stations, in their role as station facility owners, in which they lease the buildings and associated land from Network Rail. Network Rail manages some major railway stations, and several stations are operated by London Underground or other companies. All passenger TOCs in Great Britain are privately owned. The majority of these hold franchises to operate rail services on specific parts of the railway and come under the auspices of the National Rail brand. In addition, companies are able to bid for paths to operate their own services, which the franchises do not operate. These operators are classed as open access operators and are not franchise holders. Currently in Great Britain, there are two open access operators. Hull Trains runs services between London King's Cross and Hull, and Grand Central, which operates between London King's Cross and Sunderland and between London King's Cross and Bradford. In addition, there are operators that fall outside the purview of National Rail, which operate specific services which are recent additions to Britain's railways. The main examples are Eurostar, which operates to the continent via the Channel Tunnel, and Heathrow Express, which runs fast services from London to Heathrow Airport. A number of metropolitan railways on the network are operated by the local franchise holder in conjunction with the passenger transport executive or other civic body responsible for administering public transport. One of these bodies, the Merseyside Passenger Transport Executive, is responsible for one of 3 national rail franchises not awarded by central government, namely the Merseyrail franchise, while certain national rail services in North London came under the control of Transport for London. In November 2007 is London Overground. 2 other franchises, the SC